Own Brothers. This vlog is going to be about the possibilities of our origins and sort of the fake debate going on between evolution and creation. Basically, I think everybody wants to think all things come from one point or one place, and I think that's a pretty narrow assumption, and it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't fit with our observations, and if you don't agree with my own observations, at least consider the possibility of plural origins. We have these myths in our society that I believe stem from the evolution myth, that everything has to start from one point. In the evolution theory, which is very, very far from Darwin, whatever he ever had written, they started applying evolution to all thought, all science, but not just all science, but everything in society. And my conclusion is that they're doing this because the leadership of your country wants you to believe that things are getting better and better, and that we are intelligent now, we are humanitarian, and we have rights and freedom today, but in the past it was horrible. And thank our glorious, wonderful leaders here in China. Thank Mao Zedong for our wonderful, glorious present state. And I think it's pretty obvious why leadership would want to do that. They also construct a false system of patents and copyrights where you have to name one person who invented everything. You have to name one person who owns something that is done intellectually. And it's preposterous because we all work in groups. We talk to our friends, we share ideas, we get ideas from other people, and we work in groups. There is a book out there which discusses this problem and proves that all of our major inventions, from the airplane to the computer to the light bulb and everything else, were invented by groups of men and not single men. And our impression that these things were invented by single men and that they're sort of these mini Big Bangs, and wow, what an amazing genius he is to come up with that on his own, is a myth created by the government, the ruling structure. And this myth gives people the impression that that individuals just boom, just create stuff out of their heads with no basis in the past, with no collective work in the present. And that's preposterous. All of this stuff was created by groups of men, and sometimes, like I discussed before with the airplane, they're simultaneously discovered, invented, engineered by different groups of men. This is at the same time and without communication between them. And so something is happening in the spiritual development of mankind, and the actual burst of creativity appears in 2, 3, 4 places at the same time, without physical communication by telephone or letters. And this is what happened in the case of the airplane, where clearly you had the Wright brothers and their group of men working on different propeller designs and airplanes, while at the same time there's a French team working from a different perspective, slightly different kind of intelligence and racial perspective, but then boom, they come up with the same result. And at the same time, and this sort of blasts that whole myth. And what blasted the myth for me was coming and living in China, because China is not related to outside outside places. And so what we call China today is a whole group, a mass of races and warring tribes that have existed in this area, and maybe they're racially similar to us, straight hair, squinty eyes, short stature, etc. But to them, being in this place for such a long time, they have very precise eyes and they can see racial differences you would never know. And the Han race is sort of a myth that came up as well. It's a collection of over 100 different races, sort of like we call ourselves white people right now. There's many, many races under that rubric. And in this area, you have languages and stuff that came up separate from all these other languages and races. And there's no body of words in the Chinese language that you can say, well, those came from the Middle East, or those came from Africa, or those came from... No, they didn't come from anywhere. They came from here. And this is going to fly in the face of the orthodox evolutionist who says, well, everybody comes from Africa. Everybody is an African, and then we all, evolved out of Africans. And so I'm particularly offended at this idea that, well, all the human races have to come from one race. And why does science evolve this way? They come from a plural understanding, and then everything just keeps getting further and further narrowed down to where they come up with this everything from a single point myth, maybe just to support the ridiculous idea that our society today is more advanced and more pleasurable and interesting and happy and content and humanistic and than societies in the past. And I think that's probably why they're doing it. So what Kent Hovind brings up is the evolution of the evolution theory and how the age of the universe has been it keeps growing and growing, and the age of, not the age, but the size of the stuff that we were supposed to start with the Big Bang has been getting gradually, well, very quickly, has been getting very, very small, until today when you look into an American textbook, they tell you that the Big Bang came out of nothing. It was a point that you could literally say nothing, or was smaller than the point of the period at the end of this sentence. So they're allowed to say everything came from nothing, or came from an infinitesimal point, but we're not allowed to say that maybe there were 6 or 7 points. All these galaxies and planets and things in the universe are spinning in different directions. They obviously didn't come from one point, but they're forcing this evolution theory to the point where it's ridiculous, where you have to just agree that, it's one point, everything comes from one point. Just like say, the computer was invented by one man, or the light bulb was invented by Thomas Edison, period. That's the end of it. And don't believe that. I don't think that makes much sense. It doesn't fit my observation that things aren't getting better and better on the social level. People aren't becoming more humanitarian. We think we've abolished slavery. We've abolished the murder of children. Isn't it funny how the Canaanites, Edomites, or Jews of biblical times, they would sacrifice their babies into Moloch. Isn't that horrendous and savage? Well, it is. But look at China. In China, they abort 25 million babies a year. Gentlemen. And they put the dead babies in these plastic bags. And if the woman or the man, they don't pay for disposal, they hand it over to them. Like, here's your dead baby. This is the kind of savagery that is right here today. Why do I have to believe things are getting better in general, or on a social level things are getting better? Desertification, the loss of forestation, the loss of species, the oceans, the pollution and all that kind of stuff. It's losing out in pockets, but it seems to be gaining in general, or it has been at least for a very long time. And then this would fly in the face of this idea that everything's improving and always evolving on an external surface. On an internal surface, I could agree. Consciousness is always learning and improving, and I'm very optimistic about the very long term of the human race, and I'm very optimistic about the angels and God and all the consciousness in the universe is definitely learning through this process we're going through. But on the external side, what I see is most people are failing in producing something useful to society, and some trees and grass even. It's amazing how deep the failure goes. So what I would suggest is, all the types, all the kinds of animals were created at once. That instead of boom from Big Bang from nothing, all these, the universe, if we want to start from the beginning of cosmology, all this stuff happened in several points at the same time, at different times, and then on the earth here, the beginning of life was, consciousness, either raising up from a gross material state and learned material, or angels and things that do not have bodies or material dead parts to them, becoming weighted down with material parts. And I would tend to agree with the latter perception. I think most of us at some point were fallen angels, and we gained a material body because we're not understanding right and wrong, and we have to be sort of thrown onto the field of play the game, learn the ins and outs, right and wrong, good and evil, learn what God is, learn to love Him, and then we progress back into being angels, or better yet, we become one with God in the ultimate highest consciousness if we succeed, and that rate of success is infinitesimally small at this point. I would say, if you're looking at mankind, I would doubt that 1% of us are going to win this game in the sense that we'll be upgraded to the angelic realm or to the celestial realm. So anyway, just consider that inventions, creation, the beginning of life, the races, everything we see around us doesn't have to start from one point, doesn't have to spread out from one place. I seriously don't understand why so many people confuse this assumption with being scientific and thinking scientifically. If something can boom just appear now in a scientific theory from one point, it can appear from 6 points, it can appear from 1,000,000 points. And I think with the races, the human races, we probably had several thousand human races, and it's a tragedy that we only have 7 basic big races now, and they're getting really mixed and smudged and internationalized, because diversity, racial diversity, is an advantage when we peacefully coexist and exchange with other races who maintain their differences, and we maintain our differences, for the most part. But we learn from them the good things from them. They learn the good things from us, because their consciousness can only work on some things right now, and our consciousness can only work on and focus on some things right now. And we'll forget some things, and we'll be bad on some things, but we'll be good on others. And these good points will be different from theirs. And on a positive level, if we have positive exchange with other races, we're all gaining an incredible amount of knowledge And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to focus on everything, because we have other races to focus on those things for us. And we'll learn from them. We'll take a vacation over there. We'll go visit the neighbors. We'll go see what they're up to. And we'll exchange with them. We'll try to learn the good things from them. And this is what we're losing by losing racial diversity, linguistic diversity. And in that sense, I think it's a tragedy. There's extinction going on. And this is part of the external devolution that's happening. But, gentlemen, I maintain my optimism. I hope you do too, that internally we have great optimism for all consciousness. We are working towards perfection together. May we be each other's keeper and help each other improve, share the good things amongst ourselves, and make the best of our individual strengths and of our collective strengths at the same time. And amen and om.